What's going on, everybody? Scott Bogman here for BettingPros to tell you my favorite picks and props for round one of the college football playoff. You can tail all of my bets, love me or hate me, ride on the hot streak or fade, whatever you want to do at bettingpros.com/Bogman or on the BettingPros app. Last week, we were 3-1 on the picks, 4-3 on the props, didn't hit any of the touchdowns, but a couple of those were kind of far plays. This week for the playoff, I've got 3 picks on the games. I have 5 picks on props and a couple of touchdowns in here as well. 3 touchdowns I actually think I have here. So let's start out with the picks, and we're going to start out on the Friday game, Indiana at Notre Dame here, and I'm just going to go with the over 51.5. Or I believe it actually has fallen down to 51 in some spots now. And I think the strategy for Indiana going into this game should be we need to score points quickly to make Notre Dame throw the ball against Indiana. And I know we saw the destruction of the Hoosiers at the hands of Ohio State a few weeks ago, right? And it seems like Indiana's schedule was fairly soft for being a Big Ten schedule. I know there's a lot of people that think that Indiana doesn't deserve to be here. They had a lot of mistakes in that game against Ohio State, and I don't know that Notre Dame has really been tested a lot since this, their Northern Illinois loss, which was embarrassing. They never should have lost that game, but Texas A&M, their game one of the season, was their hardest game. USC was a tough game, and they gave up some yards in that one. They still ended up winning fairly easily in that one. I do think Notre Dame wins this game. It's going to be cold. It's, the Battle of Indiana, even though they're not really rivals and don't play each other a lot. It could get out of hand in Notre Dame's favor if Indiana just cannot move the ball against them like they couldn't against Ohio State. They also had, a punt return for a touchdown, a punt blocked. They threw a pick. There were a lot of mistakes made by Indiana in that game. I don't think Notre Dame is as good as Ohio State on both sides of the ball. And I don't think that Indiana is as bad as they played that game. So I do think that Indiana will be able to score. And if that's the case, I also think Notre Dame is going to be able to score. I think they're going to be able to run the ball, against a very good Indiana defense. They were ranked number 1. But I don't know that anyone can stop the Notre Dame running game. Maybe you can contain them a little bit, but I don't think you're going to stop them. So for that reason, I think Indiana plays a little point for point here. I lean towards Indiana and taking the points, but I like the over in this game. Let's go to the Penn State game, SMU at Penn State. I'm going to lay the points and take Penn State in this game. And I think SMU has done a good job, and I think they deserve to be here over Alabama. I know that was a big question, but they barely lost this game to Clemson. Their only loss was an early season loss against BYU, who we thought that was a bad loss, but it ended up being a very strong loss. BYU was a very good team this year, despite what we all thought of them coming into the season. So I feel like in this game, it's cold. It's at Happy Valley. It's going to be windy. SMU passes the ball a lot. We've seen Kevin Jennings make mistakes, right? We saw him turn the ball over 5 times against Duke. They had a -6 turnover margin, still ended up winning that game. He had 2 turnovers in the first quarter against Clemson, also led the comeback against Clemson. But to me, it's this defensive line for Penn State. If Penn State gets the lead and SMU has to pass the ball, now you have to deal with crowd noise and a physical defense that has NFL players at all 3 levels in Penn State, and the cold and the wind. I just think it's too tall of a task to ask SMU to go into Happy Valley and, stay competitive for 4 quarters. I do think the only reason that this one makes me nervous is because there is no quit at SMU. Obviously, they've come back multiple times to win games. So I know that they're not going to blink when they get down. So I lean towards the over here as well, but I really like Penn State to pull away at the end. I think the defensive line makes the difference, forces Jennings into a bad turnover or a fumble or just, a lot of 3-and-outs. So I just think Penn State is going to be too strong on the defensive line for SMU to handle it. Let's go to Clemson at Texas. I'm a huge Texas fan. I know you guys see this Vince Young behind me here. I would lean towards taking Texas, but my favorite play here is the under. I think Texas defense is number 1 in the country by a decent margin here. No one has really figured them out. And I don't think Clemson is going to change that. Clemson is a good offense. I don't think they're the best offense that Texas has seen. I don't think that they are an imposing offense against the SEC. They've played 2 games this year. They scored 3 against Georgia and 14 against South Carolina. And I think Texas defense is better than both those teams. So I like the under in this game, not only because of that, but also because the Texas offense has been struggling. 106 in red zone scoring. That is ridiculous for a team that is that good. To be as well regarded as they are, to be statistically as good as they are. Quinn Ewers is not getting this done. Bert Auburn missed 2 field goals in the SEC title game as well, so there's a little bit of that. Texas has a hard time punching it in. They ran the ball up and down the field on A&M, only ended up with 17 points, right? Moved the ball well against Arkansas, ended up with only 20 points. So Texas is not peaking on offense at all. I think that with their defense and with their offense struggling, this game goes to the under. Let me tell you guys, before we get to the props, about Splash Sports College Football Playoff Contest. You can get on our new college football playoff contest with Splash Sports right now for just $25, and you can enter up to 3 times. All you do is pick each college football playoff game against the spread and earn points for each correct pick. Plus, you're going to choose a best pick each round for double the points. The deadline is Friday. I know a lot of you guys are listening to this on Friday, so maybe go over and check it out after you're done listening to this. Join now at bettingpros.com/splash and make your picks count. It's going to be a lot of fun. Go over there and get in on the action. All right, props for this week. I'm going to go with 3 touchdown calls. One, I'm going out on a limb. That's the first one here. Kevin Jennings, the SMU quarterback. I'm calling for him to score a touchdown because it's plus 185, right? You're getting good odds here. He scored rushing touchdowns in 2 of the last 3 games that he's played. He has 5 this season, and I just really like this plus number. So I think in a fervent comeback for SMU, I think that Kevin Jennings can walk one in. Dylan Sampson, the running back for Tennessee at Ohio State. It's minus 140. It's a tough matchup for Sampson here against Ohio State, but he has 22 touchdowns on the season. He scored touchdowns in every single game except for 1 this season. So Dylan Sampson at minus 140, that number is not enough to scare me off of Sampson getting into the end zone, even against a very good Ohio State defense. Emeka Egbuka, the wide receiver for Ohio State versus Tennessee, plus 110. He has 9 touchdowns this season, 3 in his last 5 games. I do think Ohio State is going to be able to move the ball and score against Tennessee. So I think Egbuka can get into the end zone in this one. I got 5 yardage props for you. The first one is Kurtis Rourke, the Indiana quarterback, going over 199.5 yards at Notre Dame. I just think they're going to be likely playing from behind. I don't think that Notre Dame is going to stymie the offense as Ohio State did. The defensive line is good, but I think that Kurtis Rourke will be able to pass if given the time, and I think that he will be given the time in this game, and he'll do a lot better than they did in that game against Ohio State. Rushing props. Jeremiyah Love. I know he's a little nicked up, but he's good to go in this game against Indiana. Indiana, very good run defense. I believe they're ranked number 1 in the country, but Jeremiyah Love is a guy that cannot be stopped. He has big burst runs. He has after contact runs. I mean, this dude is one of the better running backs in college football right now, and he's hit this total in 4 of his last 5 games. So Indiana is a scary defense. It's the playoffs, but in the cold weather, you hand the ball off, right? I think Jeremiyah Love gets a decent amount of carries. I think he snaps off a big one in this game and gets a big chunk of this on that big one. A guy that we're going to go the opposite thought process, but we're going to go the over on his yardage as well. It's Quintrevion Wisner. I always screw his name up. I always just yell Wise at the television when I'm watching the game. But Quintrevion Wisner, the running back for Texas, over 83.5 rushing yards. He's had so many carries over the last 3 games. 19 against Georgia last week, 33 against A&M, and 26 the week before that against Kentucky. And he's hit this in 2 of the last 3 games. Georgia did hold him down. And Clemson is not Georgia. I think Wise is going to get the ball a lot, especially since Quinn Ewers has not been playing well. So I think establishing the run early and giving him the ball often is going to be the case. So for Jeremiyah Love, I think he breaks off a big one and gets the majority of it there. Wisner, it's death by 1,000 cuts. Let's go to the receiving props here. I'm going to go, I have 2 kind of weird ones. Mitchell Evans, a tight end for Notre Dame, over 28.5 receiving yards versus Indiana. If Indiana can score and play, Notre Dame's going to have to pass the ball at some point. And he's seen an uptick in targets over the last 3 weeks. He had 7 targets, 4 catches, 34 yards, and touchdown against Virginia, and then 5 for 59 in a score at USC as well. So they've been getting Evans more involved. I think it would be smart to throw him the ball at least a couple times. And, this total is so low at 28.5. I think he can easily hit it. Roderick Daniels, the SMU wide receiver, is my last prop I'm going to take. The total is 48.5 yards at Penn State. He's hit this in 3 of his last 4. And he was great in the ACC title game. 10 targets, 8 catches, 97 yards, and a score versus Clemson, who has really good secondary. So I think that SMU is going to be playing from behind against Penn State as well. So this one is fairly easy to me. And before I get out of here, just want to remind you guys, if you are looking to up your game in sports betting, join our exclusive sports betting Discord community at bettingpros.com/chat. Not only can you connect with expert handicappers who will provide free picks for the NBA, NFL, MLB, college sports, player props, live betting, and more, but now you can also participate in our weekly community picks, cast your vote, see how your picks stack up against the experts, and track your success. Easy stuff, fun stuff. Good luck to everybody on your bets this weekend, and I hope your teams win unless they are playing mine. So appreciate you guys following along, and I will see you guys next week at some point. Take it easy, everybody.